सलूट करती हूँ।
एक नम
Namaste and welcome to The Right Perspective. In the beginning, there was nothing, they say. Then there was exchange or barter. Then they discovered precious metal and attached a value to it came gold. Gold was scarce, shot up in value, came silver. From silver came copper and then nickel and then paper. And now it's all cryptic or crypto. Let's get the right perspective on cryptocurrency or digital currency. Are we on the cusp of yet another change on how we transact? And do we actually understand the dynamics? Can we regulate something that is cryptic because we don't know कि भाई आमने सामने वाला कौन है? Remember that dialogue of Amitabh Bachchan when two people are talking on the phone because they can't see each other. आदमी सोचता कुछ है, कहता कुछ है, करता कुछ है. In this case, many people believe, and the worry is that there is no connect. We don't know both the ends. So how do we regulate it? And in such a case, is it largely being used by those who want to stay under the radar? A large part of the internet is darknet, and a large part of cryptocurrency, analysts and experts believe, is dark or for not the right reasons. Is this creating a parallel economy? 6.6 billion rupees. That's a lot of money, Indian money, which is not there in the current ecosystem or the economy, but somewhere stuck in this parallel universe, which is again crypto. So, what do we do? बिल्ली है, घंटी कौन बांधे और कैसे बांधे, गला तो दिखना चाहिए. Let's go across to our panel and try and get the right perspective on how they believe this needs to be approached. Is it a boon or a bane? Or is it something that we all need to understand, open our minds to? Just like a few civilizations opened their mind to paper being transactional, or attaching value to paper so that it could be used as money or currency. Milind Deora, leader of the Congress and former Minister Communication and Shipping, is with us. Ajit Khurana, former CEO of ZepPay, a cryptocurrency exchange and founder, Genesis Network, is with us. And Kanish Gaur, founder of India Future Foundation. Namaste to all of you. And I know all of you would have your own perspectives. But let's hope through the course of the next half an hour, all of us are able to enlighten our viewers a little more. Milindji, I want to start with you. Where do you stand?
Well, my perspective on cryptocurrencies is as follows. Cryptocurrencies, firstly, to educate your viewers, is essentially a technological disruption in finance, in money, for several intermediaries. What cryptocurrencies have been doing, and it's a relatively nascent technology or a relatively nascent disruption. It's about little over a decade old. It was first launched after the global financial crisis in 2008, and it's already become a $2 trillion industry globally. So my view is that cryptocurrencies, or the larger umbrella of decentralized finance, is here to stay. It's something that no regulator, no government, no consumer, whether they like it or dislike it, can wish it away. Cryptocurrencies are not just disrupting commercial banks, but they're also disrupting central banks around the world. The reaction of governments, of central banks, in India's case, like the RBI, the Reserve Bank of India, has been knee-jerk at best. I think that the governments and the RBI, and the government of India and the RBI, have to balance a technological reality with some degree of regulation. The question, of course, then is, how do you regulate? The question is, who regulates? But so far, the reaction of the RBI in India has been to either ban cryptocurrencies, which I'm not in favor of strangulation, I'm in favor of regulation, to explore launching a central bank digital currency or CBDC, which is a welcome step, but not very easy to do. And it's only recently that the government has woken up to the reality that about 8% of Indians own and trade in cryptocurrencies, and that there is a need for some degree of examination and regulation. So I'm happy to share that in the next part of my interview, but I believe that you cannot ban it because it will go underground. You have to allow it to exist, but find ways to regulate, not strangulate.
Well, somewhere the overall thought process, despite the rejection or perhaps resistance that came from the RBI, now the government believes that there is no way that we're going to ban it. It's not going to be banned. It's got to be regulated. And they know that it is perhaps the currency of the future, and this is here to stay. The volumes are also a little alarming. Ajit ji, but the issue is, how do I regulate something? If I have a central bank digital currency or a CBDC, like Milind just said, that the RBI says I'm going to park 5 billion as reserve against which this will be pegged and there will be a certain value to it. That's a different aspect. But let's say Bitcoin or Ethereum, some of these popular ones I'm just taking in terms of crypto. I don't know. I know ticket number. I don't know that ticket number belongs to Milind Deora, Ajit Khurana, or does it belong to Kanish Gaur, or does it? I don't know. I'm just transacting with a ticket number. And also on the other end, it's a ticket number. So how do we monitor or regulate something we don't know? And
so actually,
yeah.
Actually, it may not be as bleak as you say. Suppose we were to take Milind's suggestion and actually regulate exchanges and require them to disclose. You would agree that discloses one side of the transaction at least,
Correct.
right? Because people would have done KYC, Aadhaar card, PAN card, and those kind of things. The concern is who is at the other end, because a ticket number or an address is all that you know. Interestingly, India is a signatory to the FATF, which is the Financial Action Task Force, and G20, the group of 20 nations. And both of these bodies have some guiding principles that they've already issued for cryptocurrency. And one of the key factors which relates to what you're asking right now is something called the travel rule. The travel rule already exists in the banking sector, which means that when an asset, in banking sector's case, that asset is money, when an asset transfers from entity 1 to entity 2, along with this asset must travel the information of who sent it. If we are dealing with exchanges who on the one hand are regulated by India, so we know who is receiving it or sending it on one side, and the other side are exchanges who are following the travel rule as FATF has mandated, we would know both sides of things. So it does not have to be as blank as it is, but it will be as blind spotted as you said, if the regulations do not come in and we just stay away from it and try to not talk about it.
True, but Ajit, before I go across to Kanish, one of the security experts, cybersecurity experts, say that more than 80%, 70 to 80% of the transactions in crypto over the last decade, even in India, has been for nefarious means. And there is this darknet element that is involved. There is an attempt to try and legalize crypto, but there is a darknet element which is involved. And anybody and everybody today, because it's so unregulated, at $2,200, that's the basic cost to start a blockchain and cryptocurrency. And so anybody and everybody can go ahead, transact, and then vamoose. You can't trace them. So how do I regulate something like this? And is India, in its current tech infrastructure or base, ready for it?
So I think that the fact that you can start your own cryptocurrency with $2,200 or even lower than that, by itself is not a challenge, because I could take a piece of paper and say, now I'm going to call this money. Unless a large number of people accept it as money, it is meaningless for me to say. So having said that, your first point I think is very valid in terms of the fact that there is a certain anonymity that comes in. But the reason the anonymity comes in is because in the past decade, a lot of governments did not require disclosure. So what we are saying is bring about the regulations. For example, exchanges in India require them to do KYC of bank grade or mutual fund grade, which by the way, several are already voluntarily doing.
Correct.
And then one side of the transaction becomes clear, then tell them that they can only interact with other counterparties who are following the similar procedures. So the other part is also known. This would be the way to do it. And the reason this has not happened in the past is pretty much like India. Governments are taking a little bit of time trying to come up with a policy framework.
Correct, but how do you do that with something like Bitcoin, which is based on the principle of free market? No regulations, no control, and that's why it is. That's the principle, Kanishk. How do we do that?
So I think it's important for us to understand, like we are investing in futures in stock markets. Similarly, a mechanism could be created where you are investing in cryptocurrencies, which could be Bitcoin, it could be Dogecoin, it could be Ethereum. And you can put a limit saying this is the amount which you are authorized to invest in cryptocurrencies. However, you put an embargo on transactions, the way you can use cryptocurrencies. That's an important element that you have to take into account, because if you make it legal, then it is going to impact the transactions which are happening in the market. So it could be a currency where you can invest money. However, there is also an element who can create the cryptocurrency, right? Should it be just the government or should there be private players in the market? Right now we are looking at, there are a lot of private players who claim that they want to launch their own cryptocurrencies. But the biggest issue we face is when somebody is trying to launch their own cryptocurrency, they launch a ICO, initial coin offering. They don't follow security procedures, and a lot of these cryptocurrencies, when they are launched, they get hacked. And people who have trusted these individuals or who have trusted a person who is launching these lose tremendous amount of money. The other mechanism which is very important is carrying out security assessment of the entire mechanism through which the trade is going to happen, the exchange is going to happen. So the exchanges of cryptocurrencies, the blockchain principle on which the transactions are going to happen, all that needs to have a security audit. If you look at some of the countries today where cryptocurrencies are getting launched or ICOs are there, they have regulations that they have to undergo a security audit from a list of service providers. If you look at today, we don't have a list of security auditors or even experts who can audit a cryptocurrency mechanism or a blockchain. So that mechanism has to be also created side by side if we are talking about regulating cryptocurrency. We also need an assistance to identify who are the players in the market today who can launch cryptocurrencies, or players who are owning the crypto exchange wallets or are holding a platform. This is one of the biggest hindrance today, because we know CoinDX, we know ZebPay, we know Wazir, but there are so many others which are there today claiming that they will multiply the money by 500x or 600x, and a lot of people are investing and losing money. There are so many frauds which get reported to us at India Future Foundation, where their numbers get added on WhatsApp or on alternate platforms, and people end up investing money in so-called cryptocurrency exchanges, but they end up losing all this money because there are organized hacking groups who are running these frauds. There is no way to track these frauds, because ultimately the money which they have invested gets to an unknown channel, so they cannot find out who is behind this. And a lot of these people are doing it in a very organized manner. The kind of frauds which come to us, people have lost from 5 lakh rupees to 5 crore rupees, which people claim to them that, okay, if you have invested, please pay us our percentage of exchange, which would be 30, 40, 50%, then only we will release you the money. And they also tell people to invest more. So it becomes like a vicious cycle. For an amateur or a youth who does not understand this, it's kind of a vicious stage they get into.
Milindji, coming back to you, circling back to you, and to try and understand how is it that we can regulate? Should then cryptocurrency be treated like stock markets and say you can trade, but you can't sell and purchase or buy goods? So you can do it for like a high risk, high return kind of a platform, but not get into transactions to buying products and goods. Or is there a solution that's possible, given our current tech infrastructure and also ability to secure ourselves?
Well, Anand, that's the $1 million question, or the million Bitcoin question. I think what's clear is that regulation is absolutely necessary. Now, what India should do, when I say India, I mean the government, different regulators, is look at what other countries in the world are doing. So if you look at China, for instance, China's reaction to cryptocurrencies essentially, because China controlled almost 70% of crypto mining globally. And China is now coming down heavily on miners, trying to shut down the unregulated crypto industry and launch the world's first digital central bank digital currency, the digital yuan.
DigiYuan, yeah.
America, for instance, is also exploring, their Federal Reserve, their central bank is also exploring launching a digital currency. But they are not banning cryptocurrencies. But in America, for instance, there's a big turf war between the SEC, which regulates capital markets, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the Federal Reserve. So I think India has to learn from different countries, see what other countries are doing, and be careful that in India we shouldn't have, for instance, a turf war between, let's say, as you rightly pointed out, that at one level you have to regulate trading of cryptocurrencies, ensure that there is consumer protection, consumer awareness. It could be that the SEBI, which is the Securities and Exchange Board of India, regulates that aspect of it.
Okay.
The other part is to regulate the currency, the monetary aspect of it, to ensure that there's no monetary instability. That will obviously fall on the RBI. So the government has to be very careful to ensure that there isn't a turf war between different agencies, as we are seeing, for instance, in the United States, and that they move forward as quickly as possible. Now, what will that regulatory framework look like will require a public debate. It will require cooperation with other countries as well. But I think what is absolutely essential today, and we're already late in the game, if 8% of Indians and people who are not discerning investors, who don't understand the risks associated with cryptocurrencies, are buying, selling, owning cryptocurrencies, investing their hard-earned money, I think what is absolutely critical and should have happened yesterday is that, again, the government, which means the government of India, the finance ministry, the Reserve Bank of India, perhaps even SEBI, must have a national awareness campaign to make consumers aware. Those who are trading in cryptocurrencies, young people, rural people, less educated people, who are excited about the potential of investing and trading cryptocurrencies, that as of today, this is an unregulated security and that they are doing so at their own risk. That is something which I think the government must do urgently, because you don't want a scam unearthed where somebody has taken people's money, run away. You're right, there are good people, but there are also bad apples. You don't want to learn that, we don't want to learn as a country that cryptocurrency was used for terror funding. So it's very critical that till such time that the government of India and the regulators figure out how to best regulate this area, we must launch an awareness campaign to educate people about the pitfalls associated with cryptocurrency.
See, now this is the problem, Milinji. Before I bring in, go across to Ajit and also to Kanishk again, I'm just circling back to you because 6.6 billion, that's the amount from India, this 8% of Indian population which is now transacting in crypto, that's the amount of money rolling. That's like virtually a parallel economy. Imagine if this money was actually circulating within our economy, what the impact would be within our country to this money being parked elsewhere. Now, we've had cases now in Gujarat, there is a group, 2 people have been arrested because they were purchasing contraband using Bitcoin. So the money, the cargo was being shipped from the US and it landed here and it was all contraband. And they realized that this has been going on for a while. So they know who these two were making the payment, but they don't know who's at the other end. And there is no engagement why an America would turn around and say that, okay, this is the person who's selling it and I'm going to give you this person and you are going to be able to act against such people. So this is also a domain which is uncharted for everyone. Now, if I also, when you talked about CBDC, tomorrow, let's say the RBI says, I'm going to set about $5 billion worth of gold, set up a reserve of 5 billion. And this is what, and the CBDC or Indian digital currency will be pegged against this. But we are going to stop any transaction or any trade or whatever on any other cryptocurrency which does not allow identification or a security regulation. What happens to this money which is there? This 6.6 billion, where will it go? How will people work this?
My fear is, Anand, that in the absence of immediate government state intervention from regulators or the government of India, the next knee-jerk reaction will be to ban cryptocurrencies when something bad happens. And when that happens, you will again move cryptocurrencies underground and you'll be unable to regulate. Therefore, I repeat, it's absolutely imperative and critical that the RBI, SEBI, Finance Ministry must sit down and have a holistic plan on how to regulate and how to address the cryptocurrency issue. And I would say that till such time as they figure out how best to regulate it from a trading point of view, from a monetary point of view, they must at the very least have a massive nationwide education campaign. 8% in a country as large as India is a massive number, by the way. To educate people that product that they are buying and trading in is unregulated. And if someone cheats them, what that really means is they have no legal recourse to get their money back. And that is a awareness or information that unfortunately does not exist in India.
True, they are. And for a lot of them, it's like Satta, Ajit, high risk, high return. Except for those who are using platforms which are doing KYC, a lot of them are saying कि ठीक है 50,000 लगा, अगर लाख मिल गया, 1.5 लाख मिल गया, 70,000 मिल गया, अच्छा है, घुस गया 50,000, then say okay घुस गया. But these are people who are habituated and they're looking at it like a gamble and fast money. And sadly, some of the platforms are also advertising it as fast money. That you can shirk at work, you can cock a snook at your boss, but you sit and trade on our platform and you'll make money. That's the kind of messaging also that is going out.
Right. So, what I have seen is that whether it is Forex markets, which by the way, again try to say that, do this and you'll make money. And even the stock market, a lot of people are approaching it speculatively without doing research. And it's all the more so in crypto, that I do not doubt. I must respond to one thing that Milind said with, of course, all the best intentions, that while it might be an unregulated asset, it does not mean that if they run into trouble, they have no little recourse. It may not come under SEBI or RBI. But for instance, the Consumer Protection Act does not distinguish between where the consumer's rights are violated. You can make a criminal case, you can make a police complaint, and while the certain degree of anonymity does present huge hurdles in implementation of such protection, but there have been also many cases where justice has been done. Of course, regulation will help. There is no doubt, and I think it is just a crying need. I have been in this space since a long time, and I must say that the regulatory silence is deafening. So the solution has to come from the government, coming up with regulations. And if you will just allow me to say one more thing, because though I have not said the number, but this repeated reference to 8%, which turns out to about 10 crore Indians, I can tell you with a fair degree of authority, and forgive me if I said arrogant, but that is not the correct number. It is very far from the correct number. It was released by a certain research house who also later agreed that this included a lot of double counting. So if I trade on 5 exchanges, I am counted as 5 people. The real number is a fraction of that, but still the number is large enough for the conclusions that you are drawing to be valid.
Like Ajit was saying, this technology is blockchain. So that means it's only the last link. So the previous ones we don't know. So again, how do I find out who the perpetrators are? Who do I catch?
The part which is very much important is also having the liability on crypto exchange platforms, because today these platforms have typically no liability in terms of the way they are operating. People just can report, but what is the liability of the platform in terms of the risk it exposes the Indian consumers to? So there should be a mechanism, and the regulation should build in those mechanisms. So if there is a cryptocurrency exchange which is primarily helping people invest the money, and certain people lose the money or feel that they have been frauded, there is a mechanism, there is a recourse mechanism through which they can go back to certain organization. There should be a regulator where there are certain standard operating procedures which are defined. There are aspects which are taken into account, that if somebody is investing in money in cryptocurrency and that money is going into terror financing or for money laundering or is being used for weapons or is being used against the national interest, there would be a risk, there would be a penalty, there would be legal recourse against. Not only RBI, but also the tax authority should be taken into account when we are framing these regulations.
True, I agree. But Milindji, that's the biggest challenge. There are so many aspects to this. Many are saying this is like e-Hawala. In Hawala, at least there is a note, and you have to take it physically to some person so you can identify who the Hawala operator is. Or uska route, uska network jo hai, it is so you can identify where all the networks are. Here there is no note. There is no half a note, there is no physical operator. You have an IP address, you can create an IP address and bounce it off any routers across the world. And then you make the transaction, you're gone. You wipe your traces off. So,
yeah, I mean, you're right. That's why cryptocurrencies, and I don't mean to throw water on the industry, because I think there are innovative people and there are good people and bad people in every industry, but it is decentralized finance is the future. But right now, when it's completely unregulated and the government and RBI and other regulators are turning a blind eye or just beginning to take note of it, it's more dangerous. Cash is still part of the Indian economy. Cash still gets registered. If you go with unaccounted cash to buy something from a store, that person will still register it, pay tax on it, pay GST on it. Cryptocurrencies, like my other panelists have said, is basically in the dark web.
Those who are the rule breakers are thinking far ahead of those who are the rule makers. And that's what happens, because चोर का दिमाग सिपाही से तेज चलता है जब तक कि चोर सिपाही न बन जाए. So we have to wait and watch. And like they say, with great power comes great responsibility, but there is no responsibility without accountability. So whoever is now at this point trying to dabble in crypto or has dabbled in crypto, beware, be careful. And let's hope that there is some amount or a semblance of a structure or a framework of regulation that's built that can protect the interests not just of the people of the country, but also of the country too. Milind Deora, Ajit, and also Kanishk, thank you very, very much. With that, it's a wrap of this edition of The Right Perspective. Hope we were able to clear the air and also give you some perspective on cryptocurrency. Bye for now.